So Laura and I are going to talk to you about the new marking policy in maths that we've got this year. We had a bit of a whip round the department last year and asked about what people thought of marking and feedback, and there were two sort of negatives that came through quite strongly, and they were that it was very time consuming, people spending 2 or 3 hours to mark one set of books, and it could often be quite ineffective. So what we were writing in kids' books wasn't having any impact on their learning. So we're quite keen to develop a policy that was going to tackle both those points. I think we've managed that. I hope we've managed that. Certainly I feel like I've halved the amount of time it takes me to mark books. We wanted to make sure that we're marking more effectively, so every bit of red pen that we had on a book is now has a point, a purpose. It wasn't just a case of flicking and ticking. It's not just a case of writing good, so there's some red on each page. We were trying to keep it down to 20 minutes for a set of books, so it didn't seem like quite a sort of soul-destroying task. It also allowed us to mark more regularly if we do it in just 20-minute set per set, and that obviously allows us to monitor what the kids are doing, and we also wanted to make sure that we gave immediate feedback, regular feedback, and personalise it where possible. And the way we've done that is through assessment questions, or sometimes they're called exit tickets. Some of you may be aware of these. Very briefly, what we do after a set of 3 or 4 lessons in maths, usually rounding up a topic, is ask the kids to turn to a new page in their book, usually as a plenary for a lesson, line down the middle of the page, and then they answer a question or set of questions that we've posed for them on the left-hand side. That should be done in silence on their own. We'll then take that in and just mark that one set of questions that they've done and mark it really thoroughly, giving targets and positive constructive feedback and so on. Next lesson they get it back, and as a starter they'll work on the targets that we've set them, thereby sort of closing the loop, and obviously we can also extend on where needs be. So I'm going to hand over to Laura to sort of dig down into what those assessment questions can look like in a bit more detail.
You probably can't see this at the back, but this is an example of one of our assessment questions. In black you've got the pupil response to the questions on the left there, and on the right in red you've got the teacher's marking, and then the next lesson the pupil response in the blue pen. And that response might be correcting the mistakes that they've made, it might be developing their answer a bit more fully, or it might be doing an extension question, as Pete said as well. And the only other thing to highlight there, if you could see it at the back, would be that the teacher's never actually just correcting the answer, correcting the mistakes. He's highlighting the things that might go wrong, but he's using prompt questions to try and draw out that answer a little bit further. Or in maths, for example, you might remind them of key formula that they might need to use in that question. Just a few tips, because we've been using this since before the summer now. In Doug Moth's book of Teach Like a Champion, he talks a lot about making sure right is always right. And that's what we do in our assessment questions. We're never going to tick it and say good if it's not really the perfect answer we could expect from the student. We're going to try and take it as far as we can in that next response lesson. In terms of the day-to-day, I know science have been doing this quite a lot already, and the use of highlighters. So you could use highlighters when you're marking to either highlight where the working's broken down in the question, or maybe use it to highlight some really key sentences that students could go on and develop further when they respond to that feedback. And something I've been using, and I think a few other people have been trialling it as well, is in some books I write that they're an expert, and in other books I write that they need to see an expert next lesson. This helps sometimes when you haven't quite pitched the question right, it's maybe a little bit too hard. So that next lesson you've got other people that can help students in a peer-to-peer way, rather than you just running around the class trying to help everyone at once. And this is a really small tip, but this has got a really big impact for us really, that we get students to hand their books in open on that assessment page, because if you're trying to get down to 20 minutes per set of books, then every second is going to count when you're marking, and you don't want to be rifling through trying to find out where they've written their exit ticket. And just to sum up really, there are some potential problems with this, and if you did want to sort of start to implement it or develop what you're already doing with your marking, we found that choosing the right question is key. And this exit ticket style policy really relies on having that really good question that encompasses all the skills that they've learned over the last few lessons and tries to tease out any misconceptions they might still have about the topic. I think we found that GCSE past paper questions are usually the most useful to use because they are already assessing all of those skills. And just lastly, really, it's been a really good policy in maths, but it is not the marking policy. You still have to take into account how is this going to fit in with your test marking, your mock marking, your homework marking. So I think that could be a potential problem of how you're going to fit it in with everything else. But it's worked really well. Everyone's using it in maths now. It is our whole department policy. So this has been really brief, but if you've got any questions, I'm sure anyone will be keen to help you or show you some more examples if you want to have a look.